What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good, day, night, whatever time of day it is when you're watching this video. It is about 8:45 in the morning-ish, and I'm on my way to the shop. Dude, it is, obviously, as you know, midsummer, and this heat is absolutely destroying me. So last week, I didn't even touch my camera. I didn't film. I haven't picked up the camera in almost 2 weeks, I think. And the car I was working on last week was a Scion XB. I was doing like a turbo kit on it, minus like a manifold, just doing all the pipe work and stuff, exhaust, pipe work, whatever. And that car was just very, very tight fit. It was a time crunch, so I didn't film it because I didn't really have the time. And it just whooped my butt. I was pulling like 11-hour days on it in this, 115-degree heat. The shop doesn't have AC in the shop area, and my big fan only pushes the hot air, and then my little swamp cooler just does nothing if you're not directly on it. So yesterday I went out and spent like a good chunk of change, and I got a bigger cooler. It's better, but I think I'm gonna finish up another big job and then swap it out for another one, because I got a couple jobs at the shop right now, which is what we're gonna be working on in this video. But yeah, so we're just on our way to go get coffee. We'll head to the shop. We'll make a good day out of it. We'll get some stuff done. Oh yeah, and for any of you, music people, because I used to, a couple years ago on the channel, recommend new music all the time. But for those of you guys that like music of all sorts, because I listen to literally everything, if you guys remember Owl City, the guy that made that Firefly song back when all of us, millennials were growing up, he released a new song. I think it's called Tornadoes, and it actually slaps, dude. Like, it's a really good song.
So food items, can we get started for you?
Nothing today.
Okay, what drinks are we doing?
Can I just do a grande vanilla sweet cream cold brew, please?
Grande vanilla sweet cream cold brew?
Yeah, and that'll be it.
Awesome. I believe it's 5:14.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. We'll see you next time.
Alright, finally back at the shop now. I just had to stop by Walmart because I needed like some Gatorade and some distilled water and stuff. And then I was like, screw it, while I'm here. I've been needing to change the oil in the truck. I haven't changed it since I bought it like 5 months ago. I want to say, yeah. Yeah, it's been a minute. I topped it off once because it was a little low, because it leaks a little bit from the valve cover. But yeah, I was just like, screw it, kill two birds with one stone. I've always changed my own oil. First time ever taking it to somebody else, and yeah, they spent like an hour doing it. I was the only person in line, and it still took them an hour to change the oil here on the Ranger. So I'm kind of butthurt about that, but we're good to go. Bunch of old, angry, friggin' white dudes at Walmart. I don't know. If you don't like your job, leave. That's all I got to say. Look what I did. I mean, granted, mine was forced, but now look at me. We're doing all right. Anyway, so yeah, let's let's go inside. I gotta carry the water in and stuff, and then I will show you what we're doing to the Type R. Well, this is what we're working on for today. Now, all of these cars in here are, well, other than the S2000, that one's just here because it has a dead coil pack. He's waiting for the new one to come in, but these are all cars that I'm working on right now. So this is the one whose attention has, or the car that has my attention for the day. So this is my buddy Chris. Everybody out here knows him as, well, the OG friends, I guess, know him as Belivo. Little nickname, funny story behind that. But a lot of the local guys, because he goes to a lot of car meets, know him as Type R Chris for obvious reasons. So, but, he's a salesman at a local BMW dealership. He's been climbing the ranks for the last, I want to say, year and a half, 2 years now, and he's had this car for a minute, and I guess it was just his time to trade in. Plus, when you're around things, you get influenced. Him being at a BMW dealership, working with BMWs, selling BMWs, hanging around his coworkers that have BMWs, of course, naturally, he's going to be drawn to the BMWs. Now, in his defense, he was talking about BMWs before. I don't want to say materialistic, but he's one of those people that, icon. So these are icon cars to him. So the Type R, yes, a driver's car, but to him, the car means something in that sense, because it is limited edition, it is value, it is sport car. So the same thing with the BMW, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's why he traded up. He felt it was time to, get into something a little bit more mature. So the Type R, the only real issue is he just drove it to California and something jumped out on him on the road, I think, or whatever. So other than that, that's the only damage on this car. It's got like 40,000 miles, but he put all of them on there. He drives the piss out of this car. He absolutely loves it. So I'm the one that actually installed a lot of these modifications on here. It's basically got the whole PRL catalog for the bolt-on stuff, and essentially all we're doing is we're demodifying his Type R, so that way he can finish the trade-in process. And he picked up a G80, so not the biggest fan of the grill, you guys know that. If you guys know what the G80 is, it's the one with the giant, freaking flat face grill. Looks like a big nose, but it's a beautiful car. Anyways, so that's what we're doing today. We're going to be demodifying his Civic Type R. And for later this week / the next few videos, it's going to be between these two cars. Now, this one has been here before. This is the 2J swapped Toyota Cressida that I built the transmission tunnel and rear shifter or rear mount for. Now it's back for, the same thing the toaster was here for, and then some. This is downpipe, 4-inch exhaust, dump pipe, mount the intercooler, do all the charge piping, make an intake, and then I think a crash bar later once he gets the front end situated because he has a different bumper coming. And this thing is also here for the same treatment for the most part. So this one's getting intercooler mounted, all the charge pipe, I believe an intake for the turbo, and then we're doing dump pipe and down pipe. So just all the pipe work on this one, minus an exhaust. So yeah, it's been a whole week, 2 weeks full of turbo cars. So I am not complaining. I love it. I'm just, this is one of those times where I wish I was big enough where I could have an employee, because I could use some help. But who knows, Lord willing, maybe 2 more years I'll be making that kind of money and have that kind of workflow to where I can afford to get an employee. Anyway, I'm going to go fill my little cooler up, the one that I just bought yesterday. We're going to get cracking. Alright, trying this style of editing for the first time in a while, doing a voiceover. So here I am taking the under trays off of the car now. There's 2 in the front, there's 1 in the rear, and I was taking the exhaust off while I was at it just to make my job a little bit easier because, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Mind you, that exhaust is not small. And here we are detaching the B pipe, the mid pipe, whatever you want to call it, the bottom portion of the down pipe. Now the trick on this car that I didn't figure out until later is with this style, I don't know the brand, but take the heat shield off. Makes your job so much easier, because before it wouldn't come out. Alright, just making a parts bin here just so I know what's what, and then coming up here, I'm just one of those guys that likes to keep his tools organized and clean, so I just don't like losing things, and so I just keep it all back. That Oslo socket holder, lifesaver. And I also, I'm not a mechanic, I don't do this every day, so I get easily confused by all the hardware and everything else. So I tend to label just about everything as I take it apart, and just cleanliness, orderliness, helps me focus. So moving into the engine bay side of things, pop the hood open, but we gotta grab all the parts, and he's got a big trunk in this thing, so everything was in the back here. Now we got exhaust, we got turbo inlet, we got dump pipe, we got mid pipe, we got, everything and then some. Alright, this lug key is pretty interesting. It's for his Volk-Rays lug nuts to go with his, Volk-Rays TE37s, because we got to pull the front wheels off because we're doing the front struts, like doing the springs, and then we got to take the front bumper off, which requires getting the wheels out of the way to access, the screws to take the bumper out. So watch me struggle with this lug key again, and then I pull the wheel off, and then to take the front bumper off on these cars, it's very, lots of little clips, and the eyelashes around the headlights, those are little clips, so that took me a while to figure out, but pretty easy. So here we're going through the top side of everything. I'm taking the the beauty cover off just so I can access some of the bolts a little bit easier, because some of the lines have to be pushed out of the way. The PRL intake system is a very tight fit, so if you have it and you're wanting to install it or whatever, just be prepared for a little bit of a wiggle fight per se. So in this case, get the intake arm out of the way, get the air box out of the way, and then we're moving right along. And then moving in from there, we are working on the top side, which is the downpipe. And if you guys have ever touched these cars or ever heard anything about them, the downpipes have a tendency to snap studs. So if you ever do this, be super careful. We were in here before a couple months ago, already snapped a stud, had to replace the turbo because of it. And so this time I got lucky because it was more recently tampered with. So moving on to the intake side of things, this is where it gets a little bit of a tight fit. Now there is a trick that I found out because this is like my third time having to deal with this side of the engine bay. Now this harness does come out of the way. There's a couple connectors. You follow the loom, you have your wastegate actuator connector down to the left side of the intake. There's like a boost controller type thing. I forget what sensor it is. And then down below here, you can kind of see it. You have your AC, sensor right there. So that one's a little bit harder to get to, even with my small hands. But you manage it, and then you move the vacuum line out of the way for the wastegate, and then you can, just throw the whole harness onto the valve cover. That makes the job pretty easy. And then getting in there, they are 12 mil bolts. There's 2 of them. It's a weird fit. So I found, 1/4-inch drive with an extension and a wobble is the best. But whatever works for you. That's just what worked for me. And then Milwaukee electric ratchet, always coming in clutch, dude. Gotta love those power tools. But yeah, here we are fighting with that second one. Is like you can see right there. That one's harder to see. The front one, or well, the one close to the valve cover, much easier to visually see. That one, not so easy. Here you guys go. Here's a little bit of a better shot of the 2 bolt holes on the compressor inlet side right there. So reaching into the box here, that is the box of stock charge pipe. This is the factory, I don't know what you would call this, crossover tube, intake tube, main, I don't know, whatever. It's the main piece of the intake, that Earth Dream technology though. And this one's a little bit trickier to fit in because obviously it's much bulkier than that PRL elbow. But it drops into place nicely. You just gotta move some of those coolant lines out of the way for the turbo, and then the harness and whatever else is up there, I forget. And then right here you can see me. This is how I feed the bolts in. Again, the 1/4-inch extensions on the 12 mil socket, the shallow with the wobble. It's a little tight in there. Again, I have smaller hands and it's tight for me, but you'll get it. And then as for feeding the harness back in, a little trickier because it is hard plastic, and with the factory inlet, again, a bit bigger, but you feed it down in there. The connectors line themselves up, so that part's pretty darn easy. You don't really have to worry about that. And then there's nice little clips on the valve cover there for the harness to tuck into, but yeah, they're a little tight. So yeah, hope you got strong fingers, because it kind of hurt mine, not gonna lie. Alright, moving on to putting the factory, downpipe on, cat, whatever you want to call it. So, I don't know what all that white dust is in there. The housing's in canal, so maybe it's just like, wear items, from whatever, I don't know what to call it. Anyway, swapping over the O2 sensors here. For some reason, this lower one, the secondary, was actually, barely hand tight on there, so that's kind of sketchy. But, anytime you're working with O2 sensors, do yourself a favor, especially on a hot item like a cat area. Just put NECs on it. Like, it takes 2 seconds, and you'll save yourself so much headache later. Granted, this car's getting traded in, so it doesn't matter for me, but, easy for the next guy. So, on reinstalling the factory downpipe, of course, you got to go in from the bottom, because there's, no room up top. Not a big deal, though, because it does squeeze right into place, so long as you have the front end high enough, And then I put NECs on these studs and the bolts. Well, no, I'm sorry, just the bolts that go in, because those are the ones that are prone to snapping. Alright, moving on, just reconnecting the O2 sensors, and I always struggle with one of them, because it's a style where you gotta like pinch the clip and then push it in, and then, I don't know, it locks itself. But this is me right after that realizing that I left the heat shield off, and you can't just put it back on. So here's a quick time lapse of me attempting to, and then realizing you have to take the whole intake and everything else off, and yada yada yada. So that's, off camera, it's all finished up, putting the beauty cover back on, and we can move on to the final touches. Alright, so all that's left on the car now is doing the springs, and oh, look at that, we still got to do the intercooler, and the charge piping. So moving on, that stuff's pretty easy though. It's just a couple of bolts really, and then a few clamps. So here's me finagling the intercooler mounts in this car. Super convenient. They're just little pegs, and then 2 little brackets with a couple of 10mm bolts holding it in place. Mounts up beautifully, and then again the charge piping, few bolts. The harder part is the intake arm, but not a big deal. Just move the battery. And here's the exhaust. Well, as much as I could bolt on because it has to be modified. And yeah, here's me dying of heat stroke. Alright, I just took a lunch break, back at it now. So far, you know, progress has gone pretty well. The only hiccup I had was I forgot the heat shield, so I had to backtrack a little bit, but nothing too crazy. But I'm at the point now where I've got half the exhaust hung up. I gotta, you know, weld, you know, like I said before, I gotta weld it together. I'm probably gonna save that for the morning, depending on how long these springs take, because that's all that's left. So we're missing the factory air box and the coupler, or the intake piece that goes with it, where the valve cover vent hoses run to. So he's bringing those tomorrow or whatever when he picks the car up. So in the meantime, just ignoring that, pretend it doesn't exist. Do the springs, finish the exhaust, and this thing is wrapped up and it is officially demodified. So I don't know. I'm gonna start working on the springs. I'm the one that installed them. I just don't remember. I know on these Type Rs there's a little bit of a process because it's not as easy as the 10th gens, like the SIs and stuff, or the sport hatches. So on the Type Rs, a lot of people mistake that you have to pull the whole hub off, which is not necessary. I do remember that the hub, you unbolt most of it, and then like the shock, the sensors and all that, and you lean it. And when you lean it, it allows you just enough room to pull the shock out. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna just try and get that done, knocked out, and I will catch up with you guys. Because it is already 4:40 in the afternoon, and I've been here all stinking day. But, you know, thankfully, this cooler is doing a pretty good job. Alright, so let me pull you off the tripod here. I got the one side done, the passenger side spring. I figured out the trick. So basically you just kind of take the whole assembly apart, like all the sensors and everything, and then you undo the control arm a little bit on the compensator side of it, and you just kind of pry it all down and it eventually falls out. But for whatever reason, there's a lot of road grime on this car for only having 40K on it, and it was just not easy to get out. So we go ahead, knock out the driver's side now, and then we can do the rear springs, and that's going to be 5 minutes. But yeah, we're almost done. This just goes to show you guys, like, doing your own thing. Like, our last update was around, what, 4:40 or something like that, so that side took me about an hour, but I was stopping and talking. My dad popped by the shop, and yeah, it's probably a good 50 minutes on that side because I was running into trouble, but the day's not over. I've been here since, you know, 10:30, since the oil change took a while. Yeah, I guess we leave when the work is done type thing. Gotta love being your own boss, right? I mean, I get to decide when I come in, but I'm also in charge of when I go home, which for me, I like to work. I keep working until I either drop or until, you know, I just am running out of things to do. And so in this case, I can only get so much work done today because he's coming tomorrow with the airbox. So yeah, I'm gonna do what I can today, and then, you know, we still got some more nuggets to work on the rest of the week. So, oh boy, can't wait till I can hire an employee. You know how cool it'll be to have an extra set of hands around here? Someday. Alright, this side's already done. And granted, I finished it probably like 5 minutes ago. I was just taking out some trash and stuff. And it is, focus, 6:48. So this side took me probably about 30 minutes. And my complication was the axle popped out on this side. So I had to fight with that to get back in. And then I messed up and I put the rod on this side, so then I had to kind of re-disassemble it, put the sway bar end link over there, and then put it back together. So yeah, for whatever reason, this side went so much faster. So that means just got to do the bumper, but I'm going to leave it off so you can see the leak. I got a bucket down there. And then yeah, so just finish the exhaust work, and this thing, other than the airbox, we're good. I am so hot though. Oh boy. All right, dude. All right, so we're cooking at 7:35 right now. And I just finished welding up the exhaust. So I got that weld joint and then just got this one right there. So we're all good. I'm gonna go ahead, install this thing back up. My guy that owns the car just got off of work, so he's gonna be on his way here shortly. So then he's gonna bring me the airbox, and then we'll show him the leak, and then we'll figure that part out. But this thing's going home tomorrow for sure. I would say tonight, but because that leak, I don't know that I trust sending him home. So either way, he's trading it in, so that leak's probably not gonna get taken care of. But if he ends up towing it, obviously we're not gonna be able to do that tonight. So moving along. Dude, look at how freaking sweaty I am, like how glazed I am like a donut, dude. It's gross in here. Had to shut the big door because there's a gnarly haboob, as we call it. Let me show you. See how it looks pretty much pitch black out here? That's all dust storm on the horizon that's coming in. So had to shut the door. They shut theirs too. So yeah, yeah, we call them haboobs. So we're middle of next day. It is what, 1:43 in the afternoon. I came in this morning. I had some extra work coming in this morning doing some suspension tuning on an FRS, but off camera I finished up the Type R. So this thing is, you know, basically 100% back to stock minus the wheels. I think it's got Mugen tail lights on it, or he's got stuff to sell. I don't know. He has a whole parts list. So I don't know how much of it is sold, but if you guys want to hit him up, if you guys are Type R owners, and see if he has anything left over by the time this video goes up, you know, here's his Instagram if you want to try and buy something. But yeah, intake is all good. You know, this thing, I just fired it up. It's still kind of dripping a little bit from the radiator, but you know, it's not his problem. I guess he's just trading it in. But I'm gonna cut the video off here. It's been, you know, exhausting. It's very hot in here, and I got more work to do. So we'll see in the next video where we're starting to tinker on the Dodge Stratus. I don't know what point of that car I'll pick up the video in, because you know, I just gotta get cracking on it, and it's, to me, that's not a very interesting car to show you guys, but we'll film it a little bit. So thanks for spending some time out of your day with me. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you've considered subscribing. I have a P.O. box if you guys ever want to send me something. You know, it's always really cool getting mail from anybody, drawings, you know, trinkets, whatever. It doesn't matter. I just love it. Anyways, guys, do what you love. Think about the rest. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.